Chapter 3. The moment my escape attempt went up in smoke. I lived in a small apartment downtown, the type of place best described as a bachelorette pad. Bedroom, bathroom, living room, kitchenette, just enough space for Minion and me to be comfortable. I toed off my shoes and kicked them onto the mat beside the door before jingling my bracelet. Minion whipped out of my bedroom, frozen and ears pinned back, eyes wide open, interrupted Zumi's post the instant she saw me, then did a lap around the room before shooting back from when she came. I grinned and shook my head. Tripod she may be, but that didn't slow my cat down one bit. I followed her into the bedroom at a more leisurely pace. Home sweet home at last. The walls were eggshell or pearl or ivory, one of those off-white colors with a name that made it sound prettier than it was. That didn't matter all too much. Hardly any of the paint could be seen between the bookshelf full of novels and knickknacks covering the right wall, the geometric patterned wall rug taking up most of the space on the left, the bay window opposite the door, and the faux wood sliding closet door next to the entryway. A desk in my twin bed took most of the floor space, though I had plenty of room to walk around. I felt an immediate sense of relief upon my entrance. It had been a long, long day, and I hadn't felt safe since I'd first heard Ringleader threatening Mr. Miller. The temptation to collapse face down on my bed was so strong I froze in the doorway to wrestle with the impulse. My common sense won out, and I dragged an old duffel bag out from under the bed. The tentative plan was to spend a week at my parents' place. That should give the security feed enough time to percolate through the relevant sections of the internet and for the DOJ to arrive. Mom and Dad would be happy to have me, especially once I explained the situation. I tossed the bag on the bed and gathered up everything I needed. 5 sets of clothes, a jacket, toiletries. Damn it, I'd forgotten that I needed pads. Snacks, and my purse. I laid out everything and started packing. While I was in the process of shoving a jacket into the duffel, I got a call from an unknown number. Normally I'd let it go to voicemail, but most of my old friends kept their numbers private. I put in an earbud and let the call come through. Hi, this is Piper. Periphery. What's this I hear about you getting involved with some corrupt policeman? The voice was smooth and cool, and I recognized the speaker despite not having heard from her in almost a decade. General wasn't easy to forget. My heart skipped over double time and went straight to triple. Typically, a civilian super only heard from General when being summoned to arms. The fact that she was taking a personal interest was a sign that either she had nothing better to do at the moment, unlikely, or she'd figured out a way to use me to advance an agenda. General didn't do worried about an old acquaintance. I decided to feign calm control and disinterest. Showing stress and or curiosity was how she got you. I'm sure one of the others has already shown you the video, I said while shoving a pair of jeans into my duffel. Jetset did. However, I prefer primary sources. She made it sound like an order. Most of what General said sounded like orders, to be fair, but it didn't stop the tone from rubbing me the wrong way. Not much to tell. Wrong place, wrong time. I decided I didn't like their attitudes and got them away from the Vic. Then I decided to make it harder for the defense than a testimony-only situation and yanked the security feed. Perps noticed the cams and wiped the footage, but saw me on there and decided to have one of their bosses set me up to take the vault or something. I found the Vic and had a few words with him. Currently, I'm in the process of packing and figuring out where to go. Minion, out get the duffel. That last bit was directed at my cat, who looked up at me with the sort of lazy dismissal only a feline could manage. The pause to secure the 8-pound menace gave General time to respond. I may have somewhere, she said. Ha! As though she hadn't been scheming a way to get somebody to do whatever she was about to propose for weeks, if not longer. I had been well warned of what General was like. It paid to have friends who were her direct subordinates. All the same, there was no sense in resisting the manipulation if I could benefit too. Hit me, I told her. How does a vacation to Tijuana sound? I blinked and paused midway through clipping a travel cover onto the head of my toothbrush. Tijuana's across the border, and kind of a shithole from what I've heard. Wouldn't be my first choice of hideaway. I'm hoping you might be able to talk an old friend into coming home. I snorted and rolled my eyes. Years of non-exposure had not made code talk any more impressive. I know your whole thing is innuendo, but I'm a civvy, remember? Cryptic bullshit isn't how I operate. State your case plainly or find somebody else. Very well. My Mexican counterpart has been muttering in my ear for the past few months about the U.S. reclaiming collateral. I've been looking for an agent to bring him back into the fold. You fit my criteria very well. Flattery would get her nowhere. I tossed my zip-bag toiletries on the bed next to the duffel and picked Minion out of the luggage again. Disinterest pipes, disinterest, remain unaffected, keep her talking. And what criteria would those happen to be? He was quite fond of you back in the day. I made an undignified noise and dropped the cat. So much for remaining unaffected. That was ages ago, I protested, face going hot and red. We were kids! I fail to see what that has to do with anything. If Gigavolt is to be believed, you two were close for most of your school years. Nobody liked to be reminded of high school, and I was no exception. He only liked me because I occasionally scared people into pissing their pants, I muttered. General caught it, because of course she did. Be that as it may, he's more likely to respond to you than an unfamiliar superhero. Even better, his specialty offers you an opportunity to solve your own problems. Tell him about your current circumstances and he'll come running. Collateral's power made him uniquely qualified to take out multi-person, multi-level criminal organizations. One small problem, though. Exploit his sense of chivalry, and ignore his ban from heroics? Hardly, General said. I could picture her flicking a dismissive hand. If I'm getting him back, I'm reopening the case that lost him his license. I believe he got too close to a connection someone powerful wanted to keep hidden. Occupational hazard with his skills, I acknowledged. Then I eyed my duffel. I was going to have to repack everything if I was going to Mexico. Won't he be wrapped up in whatever he has going on right now? I asked as a last-ditch effort to keep control. General hummed a low, musical note. I'm sure he'd be willing to quit destabilizing the Mexican criminal underground if you asked him nicely to destabilize the Illinois criminal underground instead. Damn her for being right, and damn me for falling for it, I sighed. I'll be in Tijuana by the end of the week, but this is a one-time thing, understand? I'm not one of yours outside of emergencies. That's what they all say. Good luck, Periphery. The sound of the other side hanging up was terribly final. I shook my head, called myself a fool, and pulled the jacket out of my bag. There went the first part of my original plan. If the rest of the plan survived without blowing up, I'd call it a miracle. Surprisingly, nothing went sideways until I made it to the train station. Minion had been safely sequestered away with a cat-loving neighbor. Gigavolt had been compensated for buying a plane ticket from the San Francisco airport to Tijuana for me, and I had 3 weeks of paid vacation to burn. Getting it didn't even require much finagling. The opera had its off-season during the summer. Thumb drives, CDs, and emails had been disseminated, a major chunk of my bank account had been converted to cash, and my phone's SIM card had been hidden inside one of the empty bottles in my spice cabinet. My phone itself was powered down. An hour-long nap had somewhat recharged my own batteries. I was as ready as I was going to be. The whole process hadn't taken long. A few hours tops, nap included. Driving to the station had doubled my time, and I spent the entire trip paranoid about being spotted and pulled over. My power doesn't work on motor vehicles because the engines are too noisy. Most of the time, I was grateful for the fact, since I'd be a crash magnet if the other cars couldn't focus on my car's presence. This was the first time I'd regarded the little quirk. Fortunately, my car was as generic as it got. A few years old gray Toyota Camry without any bumper stickers or window decals. Trying to find a specific one using traffic stops would be like knocking on the doors of every single house in a tract neighborhood to find a desired address. Sure, you could do it, but you'd waste a lot of time and effort, piss off a lot of people, and risk being forced to stop once enough of those pissed off people contacted your boss. Better to jump the house's owner while they're in the metaphorical supermarket. I left my car in the station's parking garage and hauled my duffel over to the ticket kiosk. While I had considered buying a ticket online, Cyan had reminded me over text that credit and debit card purchases were easy to track. Online transactions were doubly so. That meant cash only, at least until I was out of the country. I shook my bracelet to get the kiosk attendant's attention and bought a roomette ticket to San Fran. While more expensive than a coach seat, I'd be able to duck inside and disappear at any point. Plus, it was Tuesday, so the ticket was cheaper than it could have been. Resetting my ability with a quick trip to a bathroom stall would have been prudent, but I was in a hurry. My train was due to depart in 15 minutes, and I expected the crowd would hide me well enough. My skin crawled as I stepped onto the train platform. The area wasn't busy, but the number of people walking around was still enough to make me twitchy. This might come as a shock, but I've never liked crowds. With my pending fugitive status added to my natural sensitivity, my nerves were so tight they could be used to string a bow. I had one foot on the train when the situation went belly up. A pair of cops, not ones I'd seen before, entered the platform area. One of them noticed me and shouted, "There she is!" Son of a bitch. I hoisted my duffel into my arms and ran into the train. I'd entered the train at the front, one car away from my room. Most people were in their seats already. The only person in sight was a conductor, though my ability hadn't reset. I was still in view of people on the platform. He took one look at me and completely misunderstood why I was so frazzled. Easy there. We've still got 10 minutes until departure. Can I see your ticket? 60 seconds to police arrival. I presented my ticket and jittered with nerves for the few seconds it took for him to scan it. He punched it and handed it back, and I wasted no time in exchanging the barest of pleasantries before squeezing past him. The narrow hallways were going to be a problem, I just knew it, and getting out of his line of sight. The doors were touch activated and loud as hell, which was just fucking fantastic. No way to make them quiet. If people were nearby, I'd have to either tolerate my power blinking on and off or stick close to the doors to dash through after someone else opened them. Doing that risked me dropping my power anyway by bumping into the door opener. Bad choices all around. At least the doors were arranged in an airlock pattern. 2 doors straight across from each other and connected to a small chamber. Those chambers could provide some opportunities if I was clever. I got through and tossed my duffel into my room. I only caught a quick glimpse of the tiny cell before moving on. The space was barely big enough for the desk, regular chair, and chair bed contained within. Anybody who knew about my ability and wanted to find me would only have to step in and wave their arms a little to break my power's hold. No bueno. The train had, in order, 2 engine cars, baggage, 3 sleeper cars, a dining car, an observation lounge, and 3 coach cars. My current position in the second sleeper car's hull left me no room to maneuver and provided no cover. I needed at least one of the 2, and fast. Dining car or lounge? Well, one was on the way to the other. The dining car had booths against each wall and a 1-person aisle. The tablecloths were white and too short to hide under. A few travelers were in the car, mostly checking their phones or looking out the window. A couple glanced my way, decided I was boring, and returned to their tasks. My power settled over me as the last looked away. I sighed in relief and slipped into the booth closest to the observation lounge doors. Nudging the table showed that it was bolted to the floor. While I'd hate to get the tablecloths dirty, furniture hopping could get me from one end of the car to the other, assuming that I didn't kick some innocent bystander in the head by accident, of course. An automated voice came over the loudspeaker. All passengers, the train is now departing. Please secure your luggage and find a seat. The floor rattled, and I was momentarily pushed into my seat as the train picked up speed. As soon as it reached maximum velocity, I sagged back in my chair. Safe, at least for the moment. 2.5 days from now, I'd be in California. Half a day after that, I'd be in Mexico. From there, I could start hunting down collateral. Something told me that would be the easy part. My head drooped as the fatigue I'd been fighting all night overrode the adrenaline that had been driving me forward. Ding dong, chimed the overhead speaker, then the driver started to talk. All passengers, please report to your rooms or seats. The police have informed me that a wanted criminal is on board the train. Do not be alarmed, as the individual has not demonstrated violent tendencies. However, this woman is a key figure in an ongoing investigation. Please enter your rooms or remain in your seats until the officers have apprehended her. Your full cooperation is appreciated. My head shot up. The litany of cuss words that ran through my head as people maneuvered through the car doesn't bear repeating, but the thought I had as the door slid shut behind the last body does. Oh, it's on. Queries, kudos, or concerns? Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.